I decided to make a video about a homemade rifle brass annealing machine. There's a community of people engaged in shooting sports who already have a deep understanding of firearms and ammunition. Those people don't need an explanation of what annealing is and why I would want to build a rifle brass annealing machine. However, it occurred to me that making a video as a way of saying thank you to the other creators who inspired and showed me how to build one of these things presented an opportunity for me to discuss more than just how my machine ticks. So the following is albeit incomplete, discussion about how this machine fits into shooting sports. A rifle cartridge is a small tube containing an explosive substance and a bullet for use in a gun. The components of a cartridge are the bullet, casing or case, powder, and primer. Our discussion focuses on the case, which holds the bullet, powder, and primer. Rifle cases aren't always made out of brass. However, the discussion now narrows to cases made from brass. Brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. Brass rifle cases are around 70 to 30% copper to zinc. The ratio of those two metals lends itself to its use in rifle cases by providing strength and durability while still being malleable. And brass rifle cases are generally preferred by manufacturers and users because, not exclusively, they're easy to machine, because they're malleable, consistent, do not wear out a chamber as quickly as other metals, do not rust, and are reusable. Reusing brass rifle cases. Okay, we're getting somewhere. To reuse a brass rifle case, it needs to be resized, have a new primer installed, be filled with an explosive substance, rifle powder, and topped off with a bullet. Resizing is necessary because a case is made slightly smaller than the chamber of a rifle from which it's fired. That is so it can be inserted without resistance. When the rifle is fired, the pressure expands the case like a balloon, form-fitting it against the interior of the chamber. After this, the case is extracted from the chamber. However, it can't be easily reinserted back into the chamber without being resized to its original dimensions. A reloader, or hand loader, is a general term for a person who assembles their own cartridges and most likely reuses fired brass cases. There are a variety of reasons people reload, not the least of which is cost savings. However, many reloaders enjoy the freedom to use very specific components to meet their needs and to assemble specific cartridges which optimize the performance of their rifle. In the movies, it seems every bullet fired from a gun lands exactly where the users place the crosshairs. This is far from reality. For a variety of reasons, two bullets fired from the same rifle, aimed at the exact same place, will not necessarily end up in the exact same spot. They very rarely do. In fact, thousands of competitions are held every year by contestants who try mightily to get a bullet to land in the exact same place on a target, and most of those competitors are reloaders. Okay, so the reloader wants the maximum performance from the ammunition they produce and prefers to reuse their brass cases. They want to be safe and they want their cases to perform consistently. One technique implemented to keep cases safe for reuse and make them perform better is annealing. Without getting into the weeds, a standard bottleneck rifle case is designed to be stronger at the case head and softer at the shoulder and neck where the bullet is seated. Here's why. The case cannot be made within reason to fit exactly inside the chamber of the rifle. We covered this. The case expands when the rifle is fired, and most of the expansion happens at the end of the chamber where the bullet is seated. Hence, it's made to be softer where it expands the most. However, the other end, the back let's say, needs to be stronger to stop the pressure trying to push its way out the back of the chamber. Resizing is a process of recompressing the rifle case back to its original size. As you know, metal doesn't like to move. Try bending a coat hanger back and forth. It'll bend, heat up, become brittle, and eventually break. A rifle case is no different. It can be compressed back into its original shape. However, each time it is expanded and resized, the metal changes, it gets brittle, gets weak, and eventually it will break. So annealing, finally. Anneal means to heat, then cool. Annealing can harden or soften material. In a nutshell, it depends on how hot you get it and the amount of time it stays heated. I'm going to talk specifically about annealing rifle brass cases. If one precisely heats the end of a brass rifle case, the shoulder and neck, to a specific temperature, the process actually increases the metal's ductility, meaning stretchability or softness. Now, when the reloader resizes the case, the brass acts like it's new. Annealing heals the damage done by expansion when the cartridge was fired. There's far less damage to the brass after it has been annealed and resized, and therefore less chance of failure. Failure of a rifle case is not good. There's more. If a reloader is able to anneal each case exactly the same way each time, each case will be more consistent. The reloader is constantly striving for consistency. If one could make a number of cartridges that behave exactly the same way, consistently across all their cartridges, they have a shot at getting their bullets to hit the exact same place on a target. No pun intended. Okay, all that talking to feature a homemade machine that attempts to do one step of many in the reloading process, anneal brass. Many reloaders use various contraptions involving a blowtorch to anneal their brass. This is a tried and true process. A more recent method was developed using an induction heater. An induction heater uses electricity to heat and anneal the brass. Ready for this? An induction heater consists of an electromagnet and an electronic oscillator that passes a high-frequency alternating current through the electromagnet. The rapidly alternating magnetic field penetrates the object, generating electric currents inside the conductor called eddy currents. The eddy currents flow through the resistance of the material and heat it by Joule heating. Okay? The long and short of it is, induction heating is precise and repeatable. And like so many things in life, we have access to the work of geniuses who figured out all that stuff I just said. So all we're responsible for doing is using their technology. That's what I did. All right, here's my induction heater. As you can tell, it's kind of a sorry looking machine. Well, it's made from secondhand wood. I'm actually not sorry about it. I had the wood. I like to reuse things. Beautiful to me. Here are the main components. A digital timer switch, a volt ammeter, switches, a trigger switch, an electric motor, an induction heater with 0-volt switching, sometimes called ZVS for short, an 1/8-inch copper coil for heating the brass, a water pump, a radiator for extracting heat, a 48-volt 750-watt power supply, a 12-volt power supply, a relay switch. This automotive switch is not the correct part for the job. However, the solid-state relay I ordered did not work, and I have a replacement coming. Bus bars. These distribute 12-volt power for the digital timer switch, fans, water pump, and electric motor. Okay, let's fire it up. Main power supply, accessory power, and the electric motor. Oh, I never got back to that, did I? This is an amalgam. If you remember, I mentioned some people use a blowtorch for annealing. Because a blowtorch focuses its heat in one spot, a lot of people make a way to rotate a case as the torch heats it up. An induction heater does a much better job of heating evenly. If you make a perfectly concentric coil and place the case precisely in the middle of the coil, there will be even heating. However, it occurred to me that even an induction heater could benefit from a rotating spindle. I've studied a number of other homemade induction annealers. Those units do a very good job of centering the cases within the heating coil and heating cases evenly. In fact, when electricity is running through the coil, a case tends to be centered by magnetic fields generated inside the coil. Therefore, my idea to spin the case is likely superfluous. However, and I like this, When you design and build a custom rig, you can do whatever you want. So I have a rotating spindle. This is a rifle case covered in a temperature indicating paint called Tempolac. This paint is designed to liquefy at a set temperature. Tempolac comes in a variety of temperature sensitivities, and it can be used to check the temperature of the case. A case is placed in the spindle. It rotates. I press this trigger, which turns on the heater for a time I specify. The case is heated, and if done correctly, it gets annealed. There's some debate about which temperature the case, shoulder, and neck needs to reach to be annealed correctly. Let's just say it's between 750 to 1000 degrees Fahrenheit, just to put some numbers out there. Although precise annealing is important, consistency is also important. So even if my homemade heater doesn't anneal perfectly, as long as all the cases behave consistently, results should be good. That's it. I really enjoyed this project. It has enabled me to explore some new concepts I wasn't familiar with, and I learned a lot. There are a lot of people who have built these annealing machines and then took the time to share their designs, knowledge, and experience by posting information online. I merely followed their examples and then added a couple of my own ideas. If you decide to make one of these machines, I should warn you that it can be dangerous. Working with electricity comes with risk. Also, there's a lot of fabrication involved. Consider the tools you have, your skills, and the amount of time you are willing to spend before beginning. I also chose not to make a specific parts list for my machine. There's a forum on AccuShooter.com with a thread named Induction Brass Annealer Redux. If I had to do this all over again, I would follow their parts list and design.